Welcome to Mid-Season, where we watch a one-season show that was kind of mid. I'm Fadzai.
And I'm Sandile.
And today we will be continuing with The Secret Circle, going into episodes 5 and 6.
Ooh, the circle remains secret.
Oh, let's get into it. Episode 5, Slither. In this episode, Melissa is possessed. She's going through a lot. It's not a great time. Ultimately, the demon does leave her. It jumps into Nick, who unfortunately meets an untimely end. As a B-plot, I guess, Dawn and Charles are running around trying to get their magic back. It doesn't quite go the way they wanted. But on the upside, Cassie finally tells Jane the truth.
Which
Jane, her grandmother.
I think is the best
that's
decision of any decision that's been made in this first 5 episodes. Because what the hell are we doing? We need a goddamn adult. Jesus.
Also, can I just say, I don't know, I knew this woman from somewhere. Cassie's grandmother, who we've already said, why is this 48-year-old woman playing the grandmother of
a teenager?
Teenager being played by someone who's like 19, 20. That is Claire Bennett's adoptive mother from Heroes. And I'm like, okay.
I knew her face.
And since Adam was Claire Bennett's bestie, who was implied to be gay but then revealed to be straight, I'm like, okay, so now this woman must be playing a grandmother to an age mate of someone who previously played the age mate of her child.
Oh my God. Not to mention her husband in that show still plays a dad in the sister show to the one she's on now. So, what a clear goddamn indication of what Hollywood thinks of men and women in their middle ages, I guess. Jesus.
I'm over 30, so I am become crone, I guess.
I have become Ashley Crone. Oh, God. Hate it.
But let's get into it. So, Melissa's got a demon inside her.
Yeah.
She wakes up in Jake's bed, of course. Does she have a house? No.
And that is something I was going to bring up in a subsequent episode of like, God damn, I wish this scene was taking place in her home that we haven't seen of all the kids who are on this cast.
I think I know what scene you mean. But yeah, Jake is already up. He's trying to be cutesy because...
Nick, you mean?
They've decided, Nick. Nick is already up.
That feels personally bad to me because you called him Jake. Oh my God.
I'm so sorry. I apologize to that man.
It's fine.
But, he's decided that we're a couple. She slept over, but it seems like they didn't hook up. However, she's not in the mood. She's like, get off me, all aggressive. And he's like, whoa, what's up? And she's like, no, I just feel ill. I have a headache. And I'm like, does she have a headache because the wormy thing is like slithering around inside her brain? Because it crawled through her ear. And I was like, oh my gosh. She's like a real life parasite? Because that can happen.
I'm sorry, I woke up and my head hurts. And frankly, can I say, Nick, your girl is in peril. Untuck those hands from your stupid jeans and do something. Like, she shoves him off the bed to the ground and she screams. And then he's like, what the hell? And she's like, sorry, I'm just not doing well. And he tucks his hands in his pants and walks away. What's our plan?
He was probably like, it's just girl trouble, I guess. I don't know.
I guess. Get us some pads. God damn.
He's a teenage boy.
Be like, you want wings or no?
But no, the demon is not in her brain because when she lies down after Jake leaves the room, we can see it crawling under the skin in her back. And I was like, okay, I guess it's just poisoning your entire body. Over at the Blake household, Cassie's grandmother has a conversation with her about Heather's death. She's like, yeah, I knew Heather. She was friends with your mom. She'd been catatonic for years. It's strange that she was just like outside in the street outside our home last night. So bizarre. How did she get there? And Cassie's
what was she even doing here?
I don't know.
Cassie. just thought experiment.
Like, what were you doing last night? And she's like, nothing. Just coming home. And her grandma's like, from where? And she's like, nowhere. And I was like, okay, Cassie, come on. You sound suspicious.
Diana's house. Melissa's house if we're pretending she has one. I don't know. School because extracurricular. Nobody knows how to lie in this show.
No sense of being able to lie. I'm like, go over and call your Facebook friend Elena, who's been lying to Jenna for years at this point. She'll tell you how it's done.
Like,
Yeah, Cassie's like, no, I was hanging out with some of my new gal pals, and her grandma's like, oh, Faye and Diana and co. That's nice. You guys have a lot in common because your parents all died together in that tragic accident of which we do not speak.
Jane is so obvious, and I love her because she's a concerned adult. It is a bit silly that they're like, oh, Cassie can't ask her about this boat fire because it's public knowledge that this boat fire happened. It is a tragic thing in which 6 of their parents died. And it is honestly weirder that she's not querying Grandmama about the fact that Grandmama is clearly fishing about this event. Like, nothing about this back and forth cloak and dagger situation makes sense to me.
So strange. And her grandmother's even like, yeah, it makes sense that you'd be friends. And Cassie's like, well, it's a small town, so, that's why I found my way to there.
Weird.
She's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna exit this convo and go to school now. Bye. And her grandma's like, wait, Cassie, I'd like to cook you dinner tonight so we can sit and catch up. And I was like, don't you live with her? Don't you usually cook her dinner?
No, because she works the night shift.
Okay.
So Cassie, I guess, is usually
always
eating dinner by herself.
Shame, poor thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cassie's like, okay, yeah, sure, bye. And goes to school. Over at school, poor Melissa is tweaking because of her possession. She accidentally bumps into Dawn Chamberlain, and she's like, watch it! And Principal Chamberlain turns around like, excuse me? I know you're not talking to me like that.
I know you're not getting uppity to me, the principal of your school. Okay.
Not uppity.
I mean...
And Melissa's like, whoops, didn't see it was you. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's gotten into me. I'm feeling sick. And Principal Chamberlain's like, okay, fine. Just, watch where you're going. Meanwhile, Cassie and Diana arrive at school and they have a conversation where Cassie's like, okay, Diana, explain why I can't tell my grandmother the truth when I trust her and she means us no harm. And Diana's like, if you tell your grandmother, she might tell my dad and the rest of the adults, and then they'll take our powers away. Because I read in my book of shadows that apparently this generation of witches that your grandmother belongs to took away the powers of our parents' generation of witches, and it was a whole thing. So I don't want our magic being stripped from us entirely. Which I guess, but I'm like...
That's distinct from the real boat fire, the public story of the boat fire that has nothing to do with magic. So for Cassie, who just came back and didn't know about the boat fire, it shouldn't be weird for her to inquire about it. Because if we believe Grandmama doesn't know that we're practicing, why wouldn't you ask?
I guess Cassie's thing was she just wanted to tell her grandmother everything. About the magic in general.
For sure.
And Dad is like, no, our magic will be confiscated. We'll be normies.
Oh no, how will we occasionally levitate a book? Our powers.
How will we unlock our lockers? Charles Meade has another one of his meetings with Dawn Chamberlain in her office.
Right.
I don't know why he's always at this
secret rendezvous.
Gosh. And he's like, Heather Barnes died outside the Blake home last night. And Dawn's like, yeah, I know about that. And our kids saw it. And Charles like, do you think Heather told the kids anything? And Dawn's like, listen, I don't even know how Heather left her house. She was supposed to be catatonic for life. But, unwanted attention that's being attracted by the kids. This is just the consequence of binding the circle. And they're not yet equipped with the power to protect themselves from what they might find. So I think that it's imperative now more than ever that you and I work on getting our magic back so that we can be responsible adults. Because we're the good guys in this story. Yes, we murdered Amelia and I killed my father-in-law.
We are safeguarding our children by slaughtering our way to regaining our power. And I think we really need to stick to that.
And I'm like, was your intention ever to share this power with the likes of Ethan Conant? Because it doesn't seem like you like him, and he's definitely not in on what you're doing.
Surely the only one left. You forget sometimes it's the two of them, and then Ethan, who's not being involved in anything.
And I guess Melissa's mom, who we never see.
Who's that?
Abby Bennett Wilson.
Haven't heard of her. But anyway.
But Charles is like, tonight's the blood moon, so we're going to do our spell. Meet me at the boat at 10 p.m. because we don't want to miss it. And then Dawn's like, yeah, cool. By the way, Charles, can we go back to using phones for these conversations? Because I don't know why you keep coming to see me at the school. It's not necessary.
I see you in real life enough as it is in our clandestine murder meetings. Like, I don't have to see you at my day job.
And on that note, as Charles leaves Dawn's office, Faye is in the hallway watching, and Diana walks up to her, and Faye's like, your dad's here. You're probably getting expelled. Oh, no. And then Diana's like, actually, no, our parents are dating. Didn't you know that?
You don't know?
She's genuinely so happy about it.
Smiling so brightly.
It's so cute. She's not even trying to clap back at Faye. She's just like, look at this. We're going to be stepsisters. And Faye's like, I have nothing nice to say, so I'm going to leave.
Faye's face, I cackled so hard. Oh, God.
Meanwhile, Melissa is still tweaking while she's digging around in her locker. The demon finally overwhelms her completely. She falls to the ground. She's moaning in pain. Nick walks by and sees her in distress, and he tries to help. See, he's trying to be a good man. He's like, oh my gosh, my poor sick angel. Are you okay? And then suddenly she becomes calm and blank-faced, and she's like, yes, Nick, I'm fine. Everything's wonderful. Actually, could you help me with something? I found my mother's Book of Shadows. It's buried in the woods. Could you come help me dig it up?
I must stress, Melissa disappears from this episode 7 minutes in. So, that's fun. That's fun and great and good.
Nick is like, oh, cool. This is Nick's suggestion. At first I thought that the demon made this suggestion, but Nick is the one who's like, hey, we could use the book spells privately and like do our own magic separately from the rest of the circle.
I don't know if it's a suggestion so much as like it's a query of, is that what you're saying in telling me specifically? Because you haven't told anyone else. Like, is this what we're gonna do? I don't know if he's like saying, here's what we should do. At least that's how I read it.
That's a fair read. So they head to the woods and she makes him dig it up. Doesn't help at all. When he's quite exhausted and he's like, I don't think there's anything here. Maybe you made a mistake. And Melissa's like, oh, it's there. Trust me. The demon is being so unsubtle. I don't know how Nick isn't picking up on this.
That's a common thing in this show, when someone who is evil is being incredibly obvious and it's just like blinders on, apparently.
Oh, we'll get there.
JPK putting on a real fun performance as this demon, by the way. I do like it.
Yes. And Nick is like, oh, but I'm about to pass out here. And demon Melissa is like, oh, stop being such a wuss and keep digging.
Which is really the point where it's like, does that sound like Melissa to you? She's had more than 3 lines. This should shock you.
This interaction reminded me of Holes, that movie with Shia LaBeouf and Sigourney Weaver, where we get the flashback to Sigourney Weaver's evil character being forced to do labor for her grandfather who's after this treasure. And she's like, I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
Well, that's like, too damn bad.
You keep digging. But eventually Nick uncovers this old trunk, like suitcase thing buried in the earth. It's very heavy. He's like, are you sure there's a book in here? And Melissa says, this is exactly what we're looking for.
Love. Ambiguous statement.
So Cassie has her mostly awkward dinner with her grandma. She's giving very monosyllabic answers to all her grandma's questions. Jane is like, well, pretty soon we'll be talking about the weather. And Cassie laughs. And her grandma's like, oh my gosh, you wrinkle your nose just like your mother used to. Oh.
That was cute.
And then Cassie's like, yeah, speaking of my mom, why did she leave this town? And Jane is like, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. Your mom kept a lot of things from me. And I honestly don't know. But, maybe you can not make those same mistakes and tell me anything that might be on your mind, because I want to help, and I promise you can trust me. And I would never forgive myself if I made the same mistake with you. Cassie's like, And then she gets a text from Melissa telling her to come over to the old shack. And Jane is like, ready for dessert? And Cassie's like, actually, no, I'm going to go. Over at the witch clubhouse, Melissa and Nick have the suitcase on a table. And Nick's like, let's open it. Melissa's like, don't touch it. My mom put a spell on it to seal it shut. And we need to undo the spell first. And Nick's like, well, we could probably just pry it open. This lock looks really old. And then Melissa's like, no means no. And I was like, yes, Nick, no means
very
no.
Correct.
Actually, this demon is spitting. Then Faye arrives and she's like, hey, Melissa, what's this unspecified emergency? Neither she nor Nick are happy to see each other. The minute Faye walks in, Nick rolls his eyes.
This pair, I'm always just like, because they go back and forth, right? It's like, there's that scene where they're doing the drugs where it's like, oh, they're the 2 cool kids of the group. But then like, sandwiched on either side of that is the fact that Faye thinks Nick's a loser and Nick thinks Faye's a bitch. And it's like, what is this? I don't get it.
They don't want to share Melissa with each other.
That I understand.
But Faye, upon seeing Nick there, is like, please tell me this is not about your sex life. And Melissa's like, just give me a minute to prepare the spell and then I'll tell you everything. And Faye's like, no. You rushed me over here and now I have to wait with this guy? Ugh, no, I'm leaving. So Melissa tells her exactly what she needs to hear. She's like, I found my mom's Book of Shadows. And Faye's like, magic words have been spoken. I'm in. Nick is not pleased because he's like, I thought this was going to be our secret. And Melissa literally says, she's my best friend. Don't be an idiot.
Female solidarity is what the demon said, and I, for one, am with it.
So she's like, yeah, the book is in the suitcase. Faye's like, does Diana know about this? And Melissa says, no, bestie, this is just between you and me.
Nick
and
in the
Faye's
room
like,
just like,
okay, what
oh,
about Nick?
Okay.
Melissa's like, I just needed Nick to dig it up.
Sucks to be Nick.
And she's like, no, the book is just for the two of us. And Nick is like, wow. I thought the book was for the two of us. Demon Melissa full on ignores him and keeps talking to Faye.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Anyway, Dawn arrives at the docks to meet Charles. He has a bottle of wine and some glasses waiting at the table. And I was like, Charles, what's going on here? Do you have like a bit of a crush on
I
this
had
Chamberlain?
forgotten that this side. I'd said in the prior episodes, I like how pragmatic their relationship is, and I cannot remember if at some point it becomes romantic, but I would be upset. It still hasn't, but it makes sense to me that Charles is smitten and Dawn's like, now what do I do with this?
she's truly so... She gets there and she sees this stuff on the table and she's like, am I early?
Right.
You said 10 o'clock.
Right. And he's
so
like,
I was
no?
No, you're right on time. I just thought we could have a drink. And she was like, no, we have work to do.
We've got a blood moon.
Well, let me light some candles for the spell. I'm lighting candles for the spell. A little bit of time. You sure you don't want to drink? And Donna's like, fine, whatever. Let's have a drink. But can we not lose focus? We need to find the remaining magic crystals and restore our powers. And we're like, oh, so that's what you want to do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Blood moon crystals. I'm loving it. I'm loving the magic. Meanwhile, who's having a real romantic dinner? Adam and Diana. It's so cute.
Good for them.
She cooked for him. They both acknowledge it wasn't very good, but it's okay because they're just happy to be spending time together. Diana's like, I miss this. Don't you remember when it was just the two of us and we discovered magic and we were the only two witches? And Adam's like, yeah. And then you told everyone else and kind of ruined the vibe. And Diana's like, yeah, honestly, sometimes I wish I'd never found that book so we could just be normal.
Aww.
Anyway, time for dessert. And then they have some play fighting with whipped cream. And they start getting frisky, and it's like, oh, okay, look at you two. Let's pan away and give you some privacy.
Enjoy yourselves in your random sexy side quest. We're gonna move on.
Back at the witch shack, Melissa is preparing like ingredients for the spell. I don't know why nobody's asking her why she suddenly knows all this, but Cassie shows up, and Faye is like, you told her? What the hell, Melissa? How many witches does it take to open a suitcase? And Demon Melissa is literally like, I didn't think you'd come if you knew, but we probably need the whole circle for this.
I know I told you that it's just for you and me and you're my best friend and who cares about Nick, but actually that was the second line. So
this demon is just ad-libbing and improvising its way through this thing. I love it so much.
And getting away with it. So clearly, skills.
Maybe if you guys paid more attention to Melissa, you would be able to immediately spot when she's acting very out of character.
That's what I was just saying. You were saying that why is she suddenly a potions expert? How would they know she wasn't? When do they ever spend time with her? She might be. They don't know.
So Cassie's like, what's in the suitcase? And Nick is like, it's Melissa's Book of Shadows. And Cassie says, really? Let's see. And moves towards the suitcase. Demon Melissa breaks character and snaps. And is like, why is everybody in such a rush to open the damn suitcase? In this voice that's so much deeper than it should be.
She's like, girl, what happened to your vocal cords? Do you have notes?
I have notes.
I heard about that in Pitch Perfect. What's going on? You good?
It's so funny because like the first two words are in the normal Melissa voice. It's like, why is everybody in such a rush to open the damn suitcase? And like deepens. It's like, whoa, okay. And Cassie's like, okay, I guess I'll go call Adam and Diana and find out where they are. And Melissa's like, okay, tell them to hurry because they haven't been responding to my texts. Don't know what they're up to. Something inside the suitcase writhes. And everyone's like, we all saw that, right? The suitcase just moved. And Melissa's like, don't be silly. Suitcases don't move.
Okay, demon, you got me there.
He's like, well, this one did. And before Melissa can try to gaslight them again, the suitcase shifts on the table. And they're like, look, it moved again. And then Melissa, fully speaking in the demon voice again, is like, just stay away from it. Cassie's like, Melissa, what's in the suitcase? And then Melissa walks towards them with a creepy stare and smiles sweetly. And she's like, you'll see. As if it wasn't obvious enough that this is not Melissa. The demon chooses that moment to slither across the inside of her face so everyone can see it under the skin in her forehead. And they're like, oh, now we see. So Adam and Diana are interrupted by repeated texts from Cassie. And Diana's like, let me check my phone. And I'm sure Adam was thinking, okay, let the record show that I did not want to leave your bed to answer Cassie's summons this time. You did that. Back at the shack, Cassie has quickly figured out that the slithering thing inside Melissa's forehead is the same as the critter that was inside Heather last episode. Again, it's like, why did you cast that spell on Heather in the first place? Just unleashing this thing, knowing nothing about it, didn't do any follow-up research. I guess it's been one day, but girl, this is really on you.
Wildly irresponsible. It's true. Diana didn't tell her.
And then Faye is like, well, I guess we should get the hell out of here. It's a shame about Melissa, though.
Wow. Good luck getting back that Melissa you speak of, I guess. Girl, aren't you her best friend?
And it's actually Nick. Nick is the one who's like, we can't just leave. We have to get the demon out of Melissa.
Stepping to the plate.
And Cassie's like, hey, I don't know how we're going to help Melissa when my mom could barely help Heather despite being much more experienced than we are. And Nick is like, no, we have to save her. And Faye's like, fine. How? Then Adam and Diana arrive. As Melissa is distracted by their arrival, Nick whacks her over the back of the head with a log and she's knocked out.
A man of action. It's not what it looks like. She is possessed.
So they hog tie Melissa while she's unconscious. Then Demon Melissa wakes up and she starts screaming and snarling and demanding that they let her go. And they try to hold her down and she has like she seizes. And they back away. They're like, okay, let's not touch her in case she injures herself. And then suddenly she's calm again and she's like, oh, guys, what's going on? I'm so confused. I don't know what's happening. Nick, please help me. And Cassie's like, no, Nick, I wasn't born yesterday. I might be new in town, but I've watched horror films. And Nick is like, no, Melissa's lucid again. And I was like, she could be faking it. And Melissa's all, Nick, please, I'm in pain. These bonds are so tight. And then Nick looks into her eyes. And I guess he knows her better than anyone now because he's like, nah, this is a demon looking back at me. And he backs away. And then the demon loses it and is like, you worthless loser.
Yikes.
And it's like screaming and growling and twisting around the couch. And Adam's like, look, she's definitely going to end up hurting herself. We need to do something. And Diana's like, I'm team leader and even I don't know a spell for this. So Cassie's like, okay, I'm going to go get my grandma. See you soon. Meanwhile, the grown-ups aren't having a much better time. They try to do their spell under the light of the blood moon. They're like, the crystal will absorb and refract the light of the moon and then illuminate the locations on this magical map of all the other crystals. But the spell doesn't work. And Donna's like, darn it, the crystal doesn't have enough power due to us overusing it. And I guess you shouldn't have murdered your father-in-law the other day, Dawn. And I guess Charles shouldn't have been water-bending in Ethan Conan's lungs.
Well, honestly, that one was the most useless one. The Ethan one was really the waste of magic. But hindsight is 2020.
Charles is like, no, let's just try again. And Dawn's like, no, we failed. This is hopeless. All our preparation, a year of waiting for this blood moon. What a waste. And Charles is like, well, at least we managed to get our kids to bind the circle. And Dawn is like, you stupid man. Without the other 5 crystals, we can't restore our powers. Never mind. This is pointless. I was an idiot to think that you could help me. And then she leaves.
Yeah, and I get it. That man is 3 steps behind you.
So Cassie goes all the way back to her house and she's like, hey, Grandma, remember earlier when you said I could trust you with anything? Well, I know that our family are witches and I really need your help. The rest of the circle is stupidly watching the suitcase and not Melissa. So suddenly, Demon Melissa breaks free and attacks Nick with a pair of scissors. And she's like, okay, I'm going to cut this boy's throat if you don't do what I say.
They say scissors. Those were shears, though. They were so big.
They didn't look... I think they say shears, but I thought they looked like scissors.
Oh, no. I thought those were big blades. I think they were shears.
Okay. Shears it is. I mean, that's what Faye calls them, I think. Because Faye's like, no, there are 3 of us. Let's cast a spell and heat up the shears. And they do a little incantation. Heat of the sun, burn like fire.
It takes so long and it does so little.
It does so little. She doesn't even shriek in pain or anything. She just knocks Nick to the floor and is like, okay, any other magic tricks you want to try?
Right.
And she tells him to take the spell ingredients that she's prepared and make a circle around the suitcase. And then she's like, I've got an incantation for you. And she gives them this faux Latin spell to open the suitcase, which I guess they have no job but to do because otherwise she's going to slit Nick's throat. So the suitcase finally pops open just as Cassie comes in with her grandma, who magically shuts the suitcase again. And Melissa's like, darn it, do the spell again, do it again. And Jay's like, an adult is here. It's okay, the day is saved.
Best 5 minutes of the episode, by the way, when Grandmama comes in and starts doing some cool witch stuff. She immediately shuts the case. She comes out with a crystal and throws the demon to the ground. Just absolute badass.
She yanks the scissors out of her hand telekinetically.
Right. She starts calling out actions for the rest of the witches to do, like line up a new circle, get some candles, bring some stuff out of my kit because I'm a witch and I know what I'm doing. I was just like, thank God, somebody.
She pulls out this magic stick. They hold Melissa down. She lights it on fire and starts to like wave it over her. And Melissa's like, no, what are you doing? Please let me go.
Very key that before that, because the scene ends and they transition to something else, probably Charles and Dawn,
yes.
and then come back. At the end of the scene, after Grandmama has shown up, Nick goes up to Melissa to be like, I know you're still in there, Melissa. Please fight it. Cut away. Cut back to Grandmama with the dowsing stick of flame and Melissa shrieking, it's me, please, what's happening? Why am I tied up?
Dowsing stick of
Very
flame.
important distinction on what happened.
Is it a D&D item? The dowsing stick of flame.
Oh, no, I just call it dowsing stick of flame because dowsing rods, they used to use them back in the old-timey times to find oil, so I thought she was dowsing for the demon. I don't know.
I see. Yes, it does. It cuts away to Dawn going to get a drink at the boathouse. She's like, can I have some white wine? Actually, no, I need bourbon. And I was like, Alaric and Damon would be proud. But yeah, as she's like holding the dowsing stick of flame, I guess, over Melissa, she's like, wait, stop, let her go. She's not possessed anymore. It's gone from Melissa, but it must have jumped into someone else in the room. And holds up the crystal in front of each of the kids one by one. Cassie, Adam, Diana, and Faye. They're all in the clear. Then she holds it in front of Nick and he's like, ah, it's me. I'm the demon.
You got me, old crone. Let me sprint away.
Adam tackles him to the ground, but the bag does open now, and we see a massive snakes inside. Jane keeps the bag shut by placing a heavy crate on it, and then Nick's like, okay, well, I'm out of here now. Bye, and runs away. So Jane tells the kids that this bag is full of demons in the form of snakes. We need to get lighter fluid and set them on fire, because the only way to kill a demon is by burning it or drowning it. So she has Cassie and Adam carry it up to a bathroom, place it in a tub, and then they set the demons on fire. Adam stupidly decides he also needs to whack them with a baseball bat that he found. And they're like, no, man, stop it. Like, it's already happening. Why are you being silly? In the middle of the woods, Nick falls to the ground and the demon fully takes control of him. Jane speaks to the kids about the demons. She's like, yeah, we have to find Nick before he hurts someone. And Faye's like, cool, I'll give his aunt we've never seen on screen before a phone call in case he comes home.
Never know.
And Cassie's like, what does the demon want? And Jane's like, well, demons require human hosts to be fully active, and there is no host more powerful than a witch. Then Adam gets a phone call from Demon Nick. Demonic, if you will.
Sure. Why not?
And he's like, I'm at the boathouse where your dad works and or drinks. I'm gonna burn into the ground with your dad probably passed out inside somewhere unless you come to me with that demon-filled suitcase I want so badly. And then he hangs up, and Adam's like, well, we already killed the demons, so now what? Jane's like, it's okay. I will go and deal with Nick. Cassie, Adam, and Diana go with her, and Faye's like, I'm gonna stay behind with Melissa, who's a bit shaken, because I'm back to being a good friend, I guess. Demonic sidles up to Dawn Chamberlain at the bar, and he's like, hello, Dawn. And she's like, hello, Nick. And it's Ms. Chamberlain to you. I know she was probably thinking, these kids today are getting too big for their boots. No respect.
I really need to straighten up at that school.
And then the demon is like, actually, I'm not Nick. And she's like, okay, who are you? And then he says, I believe the name you used when you summoned me back in the day was Abaddon. And
I actually think it's pretty interesting that she immediately takes him seriously when he says that. When he says, actually, I'm not Nick. When she says, then who are you? She has a severe look on her face.
I was stunned by the fact that it's like, you guys summoned him. I thought a demon just happened to get inside Heather and Amelia did her best with what little she could do. But it's like, what were you guys doing back in the day?
And that name too is like, oh, not just any demon, one of the big ones.
Abaddon.
Abaddon's like a pretty key name as far as fallen angels and demons and all that stuff goes. Wild.
I'm just like, no wonder your guys' magic got confiscated. But he's like, we have unfinished business. And Dawn's like, okay, what do you want? And he said, I've come to do what I was meant to do. I want the circle. And I was like, now what does that mean? Were you summoned to go after the circle? Why would they summon you to go after their circle back in the day? Very confusing. Dawn is like, no, please, don't hurt the little children. And he's like, well, the kids are on their way here right now, and I need a new body, so I'm gonna take yours. Dawn's like, okay, I surrender, but let's not do it here in public. let's go somewhere else. As they step out, she sneakily phones Charles, who
Very
of course
smart.
answers immediately. He's like, oh my gosh, it's Dawn. Hi. She addresses Abaddon by name and tells him that we should go to the dry docks because it's more private there. Abaddon, the demon from back in the day whom I summoned, to the dry docks
That I
is
summoned
where we're going to go.
16 years ago at the boat fire.
At the dry dock, Dawn is like, listen, Abaddon, do whatever you want with me, but spare the children. And he's like, well, actually, I want the circle's power, so that's not going to happen. And Dawn's like, what? The children aren't strong. They don't know anything. There's no power there. And then Charles appears and knocks the demon out with a punch to the face.
Yeah. Which,
Just clocks
one of
him
the
one
surefire
time.
ways is what I've heard.
Out cold. I was like, oh, okay. Well, that was easy. And then Charles is like, what should we do? And Dawn is like, you know what we have to do. Without the crystal, we have no more power. So there's nothing magical we can do to the demon. We're going to have to drown Abaddon in this host body, Nick. And Charles is like, for God's sake, Dawn. And she's like, listen, we don't have a choice because he's off to the rest of the circle, including the two children we love the most. So that's what they decide to do. Meanwhile, Jane, Cassie, and Adam show up at the boathouse and they scramble around trying to find Nick as Charles drags Nick to the water's edge because Dawn's like, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to watch. Poor Nick seems to regain consciousness. He's like, what are you doing? Charles is like, hesitation. And Dawn's like, no, that's not Nick. Just drown it, Charles. Be a man. Drown the demon. And poor Nick starts to cry. I don't know whether it's Nick or Abaddon or both, but he's begging Charles to stop. Then he starts fighting back, but Charles, I guess, is too strong and is successfully able to drown them. So Nick is dead, and Jane and Cassie have heard Nick crying out, so they rush towards where he is. Somehow Dawn and Charles are able to slip away, so that by the time that Jane and Cassie arrive, they just see Nick's dead body lying on the shore. What a shame.
Yeah, rip to Nick. And I guess, similarly to Vampire Diaries in the first arc, there has to be, that sacrificial lamb to make it feel like there's stakes to the story and your main characters are actually in danger. And I guess it's better that it was Nick and not Melissa because it would have been so easy to be Melissa.
Yeah.
But also, it kind of sucks that, I don't know, I remember thinking Nick had potential to become interesting, and it felt wasted to just kill him 5 episodes in. It was so bizarre. It was we had these 6 main characters, and here we shuffle off this clearly troubled kid who, as we get to this point, is starting to be more responsible, more reliable. Hey, we have to help. We can't just leave one of our own behind. That sort of thing. And it's just well, he dies. And it especially upsets me because of what happens after. But I mean, we'll get there, I guess.
I have to assume real life was writing the plot. Maybe the actor had to go do something.
I
or
don't
became
think that
unavailable.
actor had to go do anything.
I've seen him in at least one other show where he had a recurring role. He was in The Fosters.
Okay, maybe he was doing The Fosters.
Also, sometimes, you leave because you think there's an opportunity waiting for you and then there isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, let me look him up and see what he was doing around this time. He's Australian, by the way. Just like...
oh, really?
Phoebe Tonkin.
Just like Phoebe. Phoebe says, I don't join a cast unless there's another Australian.
I need my people with me.
Who else is Jackson Australian? Is that what you tell me? And I always forget and then I'm surprised again.
He is Australian American, though I
okay.
believe he has an American accent in real life.
Okay.
He's become Americanized. So he was in The Fosters in 2016.
Well.
So I can't imagine what was so important that he had somewhere to be rather than him being written out. I mean, they did it to Vicky, so that's why I'm it tracks. They usually do this. This is the modus operandi. I'm just damn, sucks to suck, I guess.
I mean, Vicky was not that'd be like killing off Caroline or Jeremy.
Yeah.
Part of the core 6.
This would be like killing off Tyler, I guess.
Yeah. Wild.
Anyway.
And just when he was starting to treat Melissa with some respect.
Right.
Speaking
I'm
of whom,
there's something to work with.
Melissa wakes up still at the witch shack and she's like, I have amnesia. I don't really remember what's been going on. It's really? You don't remember demons, possession, being really mean to me? And I was like, really, Faye? You're gonna make this about you.
As opposed to...
She'll get so much worse of the next episode.
Sure does.
But she does have a soul because she's like, I'm really glad you're okay, Melissa. And then Melissa's like, okay, where's everyone else? Where's Nick? And then Faye gets a phone call from Diana. And Diana tells her the sad news. And Faye is genuinely shocked and distraught. I was like, oh, look at you.
Yeah.
But elsewhere, Dawn and Charles sit and talk in Charles's car. Charles is clearly traumatized by having to kill Nick. And Dawn's like, no, listen, we killed a demon. Think of all the lives we saved. It was the right thing to do. And Charles is like, no, there's nothing right about that. I killed a boy. A child. So I guess he draws the line at killing children.
Yeah, killing innocent women in their homes through fire and magic is super chill.
Orphaning children up by burning their mothers alive.
Right. But killing
That's
a child, no. I've crossed the line.
Threatening to orphan Adam by drowning his dad as well.
Acceptable.
Dawn knows how to handle him because she takes his hand and she's like, you saved my life. Thank you. Adam and Diana have a convo in the boathouse. And Adam's like, yeah, the police think that Nick must have accidentally drowned by falling into the water and hitting his head. And I was like, then how did you find him on the shoreline? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it would have washed up, you know?
He drowned at high tide and then the water receded and then you found him on the shoreline. Like, what? But Adam says, I think Nick must have been trying to get the demon out of himself, maybe, by drowning it. And I was like, well, that would be stupid if you thought Nick was that stupid.
I think he means as a sacrificial play, as like he drowned himself because they learned from Jane the only way to kill a demon is through fire or drowning it. So he went to sink himself to get the demon dead.
He specifically says he was trying to get the demon out of himself. So that's what Adam's theory is. So he doesn't think Nick was trying to die. He thinks Nick was just trying to scare this thing out of his body, I guess.
Okay.
And I'm like, but Adam... And then they're like, yeah, poor Nick. He had both parents die. So he was like, worse off than the rest of us. And Dana's like, yes, woe is us. I couldn't handle losing you, Adam. And Adam's like, don't worry. You're not going to lose me. And she's like, promise? And he's like, I promise.
It's a really...
The specter of Cassie looms over their relationship.
It's a very unreasonable thing to ask someone to promise. It's not how life works. You can't promise that you will always be there. Clearly, as you see, your friend just died.
Speaking of guilt, over at the Blake house, Cassie's like, oh, Grandma, it's my fault for not coming clean to you about the circle sooner, because if I had, maybe we would have been able to stop all this from happening and Nick could be alive. And Jane's like, no, Cassie, it's not your fault. And I'm like, well, I mean, not entirely, but domino effect, Cassie. She's like, listen, there have been too many secrets for too long. I don't want it to be like that with us anymore. And then Cassie's like, okay, and on that note, I need to know the truth about the fire 16 years ago and why Amelia left town. And again, Jane's like, girl, I honestly do not know. I wish I knew, but I never have.
Wild.
So that's that, I guess.
I can't remember if that's true or if she's obfuscating something. I really don't.
I also don't remember. She tells Cassie something similar to what Grandma Sheila told Bonnie. Ours is not an easy life. Witchcraft has never been about fun and games. It's dangerous and it attracts darkness. And she says that's what Amelia was trying to keep Cassie from. That's what she was trying to keep Amelia from. And she's like, I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Promise. I'm like, everyone's making promises tonight that I'm pretty sure they won't be able to keep. But it's sweet to see you try. We get a muted scene of Faye passing on the news about Nick's death to Melissa. And Melissa breaks down and it's like, oh, my sweet baby girl, shame. And in the final scene, Cassie goes up to her room and looks through her open window across to Nick's bedroom window, which is now vacant.
That was a nice bookend, I guess, because that's how he showed up first in the show.
Mm-hmm. She got in yesterday. I like that this episode finally explained a little bit about what exactly Dawn and Charles are up to.
Yes. It makes sense in retrospect, but yeah, having some clarity on why are you killing all these people and trying to manipulate these kids? Goddamn, it makes sense.
And I love how they continue to justify everything they're doing by saying it's for the kids because our kids are in danger. And I'm like, their kids are in danger because of their machinations, because all of this circle business is what they want.
Would you believe if you'd done none of this nonsense, your kids would be fine and not need saving?
And points to Cassie for doing what no other supernatural teen drama protagonist does this early in the first season. She's like, I'm telling an adult. I'm telling my parent. To be fair, she did know her grandmother was a witch, so I guess there was that, security net. But still, a lot of these other kids are just like, no, we're 16 and we'll have the weight of the world on our shoulders.
We'll make the
town.
life-changing decisions.
But that is it for episode 5, unless you have any other thoughts. I guess we've discussed Nick. His death will, I guess, become like the main focus for Melissa's storyline going forward.
Yeah, which is like, that would make sense if it weren't for the fact that no one else is interested in that at all. So it really just holds her in this space on the side of the story that has nothing to do with what's going on centrally.
Yeah, but I mean, at least she has something to do.
Sure.
Is it about a man? Yeah. Is it about a white character? Yeah, but it's 2011. We'll take what we can get, I guess.
Okay.
Episode 6, Wake. Cassie wakes up in the middle of the night and goes to her window, and she sees a young blonde man standing outside in front of a fire on the lawn of the Armstrong house. He turns to see Cassie watching him, and she ducks out of sight. And when she peeks out again, the man is gone and the fire has gone out, but a crescent shape has been burned into the grass.
I can't believe they bring him in right after Nick's death. I did not remember that it was that quickly.
You didn't?
Didn't even let it breathe.
It's the next day.
Didn't even let it breathe. They said immediate replacement. I was so mad.
The next morning, Cassie goes downstairs and her grandmother's baking cookies for Nick's wake. And Cassie's like, I saw a man in Nick's backyard last night. And Jane's like, yeah, that must have been Nick's older brother, Jake. And Cassie's like, oh, I didn't know he had a brother. And I said, yeah, I suspect neither did the writers, because this feels like a convenient replacement, like something was going on behind the scenes. But anyway.
It's so crazy.
But Jane's like, no, Nick left town a few years ago. He was a troubled young man.
Jake, you mean?
Sorry. Jake left town a few years ago. He was a troubled young man. And Cassie's like, oh, and now he's lost his brother. This is all because we bound the circle and we had no clue what we were doing. And look at all the ramifications. And now our circle's broken. And Jane's like, the circle's not broken. The binding ritual binds you to each other's bloodlines, not just to each other as individuals. And Cassie's like, oh, so I guess Jake's now gonna get Nick's spot in the circle?
Must be nice. Didn't work for it at all. Didn't earn the place, just slid in.
I think this is crazy because this means that as long as one person from each family, at least in the same generation, consents to the binding ceremony, everyone else in the family basically has to deal with the fact that they're magically linked, and if someone in the circle dies, they might just get subbed in against their will.
I didn't ask for that shit. What are you talking about? God.
Like
and
the
all
mechanics.
I could hear when that scene was going on was, won't the circle be unbroken? By and by.
I love how much of your Christian upbringing just bounces around inside your head despite you not being religious
It hooks
anymore.
in deep.
But yeah, Jane says that apparently circles were designed to last and to protect witches and non-witches. And Cassie's like, cool, I can't deal with another lore dump right now, so I'm gonna go to school. And Jane says, no, Cassie, you have to know these things in order to protect yourself. Your lineage goes back to the very beginning of witchcraft. And I was like, oh.
You're not like other witches.
So I guess if this story had been allowed to be in the same universe as TVD as was intended, I guess the literal original witch might just have been white, as you always feared, Sandile.
Thanks, I hate it. Get me out of here.
Anyway, Jane is like, this makes Cassie a special snowflake whose powers are stronger than all the other witches in the circle. Surprise, surprise. You know what I'd like? I'd like someone to be bold enough to write a story where the main character in universe is actually player B, player 2. Do that. Be bold, guys. I mean, because Diana starts off as the de facto leader, but very quickly the story starts pushing Cassie into that spot.
Oh, this episode is exclusively about that. Jane is like, you're a Blake. You actually should be running the show. And Cassie goes, say less. And immediately starts making proclamations and speeches to be like, guys, I think we should do this.
You know?
It's like, didn't you just show up a week ago?
Gosh.
Okay.
Let Diana have this, Cassie. How much more do you plan to take
You gonna
from
take her boyfriend? Now you're gonna take her leadership? Damn.
But yeah, that's what Jane says. She's like, you were born with the responsibility to lead and protect your circle. And I'm like, it's the genre, I guess.
It's so funny
Speaking
that
of
like
Diana,
Cassie's so not that character, and the story is warping to push her into that position of the genre. It's just like Cassie has no interest. She's so like chill, loner, girly. She doesn't want to run the show.
But speaking of Lady Di, she's in her room. Charles comes in to be like, hey, I'm going to the office to do lawyer things, I guess. And he sees Diana holding a photograph from like a bunch of pictures she has strewn across her bed. And he's like, hey, what's that? And she's like, it's your guilt. People are bringing photos of Nick to his wake. And I thought I didn't have any, but I found one of him and me when we were little kids. And apparently Charles used to take both of them out for a spin on the boats. I guess since Charles is a man and Nick was a boy with no dad, so this is very important. Masculinity, something.
Yeah.
And Diana's like, Nick used to love those boat rides, but he was also so scared, so he would just like cling to your arm the whole time, Dad. And Charles is
Remember
like,
the way he clung
my
to your arm when you were
sins.
drowning him? Yeah. How lovely.
He was scared of falling in the water as a child, and I drowned him. Cassie goes over to the boathouse with all the cookies her grandma baked, and Ethan shows up and takes him to the kitchen. And then Cassie's like, hey, Adam and Diana, you're setting up all the stuff for the wake. Why are you the ones doing this? And then Diana's like, well, Nick's aunt, who we've never seen on screen, has left town to go stay with family, so there's no one else to organize this wake.
And then it's like, who's the wake for then? If Nick's family is out of town and his only relative who lives in town went out of town to be with his family, who's the wake for?
For his friends, I guess.
Sure. Okay, seems presumptuous, but all right.
And I guess we'll never see that aunt, because now there's no reason for her to ever
Why would she come
exist.
back to her house she's lived in for years?
Cassie's like, speaking of Nick's family, his brother Jake is in town, and I have to talk to you about him. And Adam's like, Jake is back? Oh, Sabrina Breer. Oh. And Diana's like, well, Adam, obviously Jake wouldn't miss his own little brother's funeral. And Adam's like, wouldn't he though? He kind of sucks.
think he might.
Literally says, Jake doesn't care about anyone but himself.
Yeah.
And then he's like, let me tell something to you, Cassie. Jake used to work for my dad. My father offered him a job where no one else in town would. And then one fine night, he robbed the boathouse blind, absconded with the loot. And then Diana's like, yeah, in fact, Ethan and Adam almost lost their business.
Right.
And Adam has never forgiven Jake for that. And Adam's like, yeah, and then storms off.
And I
I'm like,
this
damn, all right.
whole episode, everyone's gonna act like Adam is the asshole for being upset at
You
Jake.
know?
As if that's not one of the worst things you could do to somebody after they helped you.
Even Diana, his girlfriend, the closest person to him, is like, yeah, Adam's still a bit sore about that.
I get it's tied up in the Cassie stuff. Come on. This guy sucks.
And the thing is, at this point in the story, in this particular scene, Adam's disdain for Jake has nothing to do with Cassie yet. So Diana can't even use that as an excuse.
Right. And she's already being like very like placating in a way that's like, yeah, this is why Adam doesn't like him. You shouldn't like him too on principle. They nearly lost their business. They don't seem to be doing that well to begin with. I think that's what pisses me off too, is that the Conant family isn't the most well-to-do, unlike the other families in this circle. And they went out of their way to help somebody get their act together. And he robbed them blind in such a way that they almost lost what little they had. And we're acting like Adam's the problem. Get out of my face.
We will get into it because I'd actually forgotten about the true depth of Jake's assholery. And watching these episodes, I was like, oh, okay, no, I hate you.
No, he
You're the Damon
sucks.
Salvatore of this universe.
I didn't want to be back in the space of Damon Salvatore, but he really sucks. He just, and I know just from the energy of how they're playing it, they're gonna spin a whole thing about how he's traumatized and like because he says like, I hate witchcraft, it took my family away or whatever. So actually he's the poor sad soul and he's the victim of this situation. Jake mows through so many people in these 2 episodes alone.
I know, it's crazy.
Bad.
We'll get to it. But once Adam has stalked off, Cassie turns to Diana and she's basically like, this bad blood between the boys is kind of awkward because Jake completes our circle.
God, I'd be furious.
Now, Jake takes the cake for being the most ish character in this episode, but Faye Chamberlain said it's an honor just to be nominated because Faye Chamberlain today
After 2 days of Nick being dead, being like, Melissa, you have to move on. I am just like,
Faye is seated at the table with Melissa. She's being her usual catty self. Apparently, the only way she knows how to process like grief is to exude high school mean girl energy, because she's like, oh my gosh, Melissa, this classmate of ours, Amy Leone, stood up in English class and read a poem she'd written about Nick. The whole thing was pretty hilarious. And Melissa's like, yeah. Quite disinterested in Faye's energy today.
God.
Then Faye spots Jake outside, and she is shaken to her core. I have never seen that energy coming off of her.
Yeah.
All her vibrato is suddenly gone. Then Jake goes up to Adam and thanks him for the fact that he and his father are hosting Nick's wake. Adam basically bites his tongue in half trying to be civil, but eventually manages to calmly tell Jake it's no problem. Jake, I guess, is not satisfied with this and decides to poke the bear. Then he's like, hey, there's no reason for you and me to get bogged down in what he describes as ancient history.
The stones
Adam, again,
on this man.
forces himself to remain calm, and he's like I said, we're glad to do it. And I was like, Jake?
And you have to remember, Jake's older than them, right? These are children. Jake is like 19,
like
I
19,
think.
20.
And it's like for Adam to be the more mature one in this situation as Jake tries to get a rise out of him again after Jake nearly ruined their lives.
So insane. And Cassie's standing nearby watching the awkward exchange, so Jake notices her, and he's like, hey, neighbor.
Ugh.
And she's like, hey.
First of all, that's Nick's line.
Then he's like, well, I'll see you guys around. Bye. And Adam instantly senses what the writers have planned.
Right.
And possessively asks Cassie, what was that about? Do you know him? Do you guys know each other? And Cassie's like, no, we don't. And Diana's like, clocked.
Diana Mead will remember that.
So back in her booth with Melissa, Faye is feeling like the main character of her own show. She heaves a sigh of relief and she's like, oh, thank goodness, he didn't see me. Melissa, for the past 2 years, I have had an outfit planned for the day that Jake came back to town, and I absolutely did not want him to see me dressed like this.
Oh my God.
And then Melissa is like, girl, stand up. I thought you were over Jake. Did he not treat you like crap back when you guys were involved? And Faye is like, well, yes. And now I need to make him regret it by showing him how confident and sexy and nonchalant and totally past him I am.
This is a very embarrassing look for Faye, especially because this guy isn't even impressive. Like, it's just, oof.
Melissa's like, you do that. I'ma head out.
All right.
And then Faye's like, hey, Melissa, I know you miss Nick. We all do. But you can't spend the rest of your life lying on your bedroom floor listening to depressing music.
Oh my
And then
God.
Melissa gives her this disgusted look and is like,
It's been
2 days, Faye.
days. I can't fathom the level of self-centeredness, the level of disregard to just be like, God, are you not over your boyfriend dying 2 days ago? Jesus. Lighten up. Faye Chamberlain.
Melissa leaves, and good for her, because I'm like, girl, I'm glad that at least now you can stand up to someone in your life. That night, Jane Blake goes to speak with Dawn Chamberlain at her home. Dawn is like, oh, Jane, I have grief counselors coming to the school to try and make sense of this terrible accident. And then Jane is like, oh, Nick's death wasn't an accident. Dawn clandestinely grabs a large kitchen knife, ready
Apparently.
to, I guess, just
Stab
kill Jane Blake if she has
Okay.
to, in order to maintain her secrets.
Crazy enough that you're just gonna kill another elder. But regardless, you know Jane has magic. What are you doing with your knife?
She just grabs the knife. She's like, oh, it
Okay.
wasn't? And then Jane is like, yes, Nick was killed by a demon. And then Dawn's like, oh, okay, and relaxes, realizing that Jane doesn't know that she and Charles had anything to do with it. Jane is like, the children have bound their circle, and that was the demon that they unleashed from Heather Barnes. I guess Jane believes the same theory, that Nick just fell in the water and drowned, or was like trying to get rid of the demon and drowned by mistake. So Dawn is like, this is news to me. The circle is bound? Wow, that's crazy. Heather's demon was unleashed. Nick was possessed. Gosh, that could have been Faye. And I was like, now, Ms. Chamberlain, I am tired. I am sick and tired of every time a child in this town is maimed or killed, your go-to is, gosh,
could have been my
daughter.
child.
When all of this is happening because of you and Charles.
Thank God it was some other random child.
Gosh. Dawn asks Jane, are you going to go tattle to the elders and have them strip the children of their powers? And Jane's like, no, I'm not going to do that. They need their powers to protect themselves. Can I count on you to help me keep them safe? And Dawn is like, yes, of course. We're all in this together. Meanwhile, the kids are back at the little clubhouse discussing Jake, and Adam is adamant that they cannot let Jake join their circle. And Cassie's like, but my grandma said we don't have a choice. He's already a part of our circle due to his bloodline. And Adam's like, okay, doesn't mean we have to tell him. And Cassie says, don't we want to? And then Diana finally is on Adam's side. She's like, no, you don't know Jake like we do. He's hurt a lot of people. And I was like, oh, okay, now we're switching sides.
We're acknowledging
where was
it.
this energy this morning? And then Melissa adds, you can't just replace Nick with Jake. It's not right. She's speaking through the script to the writers of the show.
Me to the writers. Just being like, this doesn't work. Sorry.
And Adam says, does Jake even know that the rest of us are witches or that he's a part of a circle? And Diana's like, well, I doubt that because he left town before I found my book, and that's what started all of this. So Cassie warns them, well, if Jake leaves town again, he's going to take his fraction of the circle's power with him, which I guess Jake would be unable to use because you can only use it in tandem with other circle members, which begs the question, if Jake does already know he's a witch, which we will later on find out he does, then surely he realized he was a part of a circle.
When his magic stopped
When he woke
working.
up one morning and his magic just stopped.
Went from one day to the next, he suddenly couldn't unlock his locks like he always does.
And then I'm like, also, how does that work? Did his magic stop working the night that Nick died? Or
I
was
guess
it the night
in the
the circle
instant.
was bound? How does it work?
He was then instantly bound in his death, like the Supreme. One falls, another rises.
Anyway, Cassie's like, listen, we either bring Jake into the fold or we leave ourselves vulnerable with like a whole sixth of our power missing. And then Faye says, who died and made you Queen Witch? And Melissa looks at Faye like, really? Too soon, girl. And Faye's like, sorry.
Right, literally, our friend, my boyfriend, just died.
Then they hear a disturbance outside and they exit the house and see a fire blazing outside. A lot of arson going on today.
Yeah. And I just hate to see it. The crescent moon being used for ill. Very unfortunate for the pagan girlies. Like,
You know?
it's not often you see it being like a warning, an attack. It's like the moon, she's so chill.
Another uncreative spell used to put out the fire. They're like, no air for fire. No
Sure.
air for fire. And I was like, okay, I guess explain the scientific process of robbing flames of oxygen, I suppose.
Deprive it of oxygen. End the combustion reaction.
Once it's out, we see another crescent shape on their grass. And Melissa's like, who could have done this? It was clearly deliberate. And Adam's like, probably Jake trying to scare us. That loser, that scoundrel. And Diana's like, no, Jake doesn't know about us. Which I'm like, when did we conclude that he didn't know about you? Just now it was a question. Now it's a fact.
It's a real big assumption to make.
So Cassie goes to see her grandma at the hospital where she works. Melissa McCall, she's reheating your nachos. She's a nurse.
I love these night nurses.
Jane's like, the symbol is ancient and means conquest. It used to be burned onto the ground of a witch's land to try and scare them and let them know they'd been marked. And I was like, not the werewolf culture from Mystic Falls being appropriated.
You've been marked. The Dawn said it already to PNW 9, Zachary Lawson. She mocked him. If you go back to the episode, you see a moon symbol on his forehead. It was there all along.
And Cassie's like, well, I spotted Jake the previous night and he was setting a fire behind his house, so maybe it's him. Speaking of Jake, Faye finally puts together the fit that she's been saving for 2 years, I guess. I guess fashion hasn't evolved in those 2 years. I
Yep.
would think a girl like her would be like on the pulse of every trend, but sure. And she goes to see Jake at the boats and she's like, hometown parasite returns.
Okay.
Jake immediately clocks her tea and is like, oh, you got yourself all dolled up to come say hello. Cute.
Like, it's just it's not a good look. It's very embarrassing. And I feel bad for her.
She will continue to be an embarrassment to herself going forward for quite a while. Faye is like, get over yourself, Jake. I just wanted to come and say I'm sorry about Nick. He was a good guy. And Jake is like, that's why you came down here. And Faye's like, and I was bored. So where have you been for the last 2 years? And Jake's like, oh, did you miss me? And she says, not really. And it is like, yeah, you were always so damn clingy, Faye.
Jesus.
It's like, wow.
This is the prize you're chasing, my love. This is wild.
Faye says, screw you, and turns to go. But then she turns back and she's like, by the way, did you set that fire? And Jake's like, what fire? And she's like, yeah, you did, didn't you? Because you suck. And then Jake forcefully grabs her and demands to know what the hell she's talking about. And then she says, you don't get to tell me what to do anymore, Jake. And then leaves. And I'm like, well, if only you could stick to those guns. But
unfortunate.
Dawn and Charles have another of their secret meetings. Gosh. And Dawn is like, whew, Charles, Jane could have ruined everything. Charles is not really listening. He's still in his head about Nick. And Dawn is like, I'm sorry, Charles, am I boring you? And he's like, huh?
Charles in an active hallucination.
She's under your control. That's great. Sorry, I haven't been sleeping much. And Dawn is like, listen, I know Nick's death has been, weighing on you a lot, but you need to stay focused. Okay, this new bond with Jane Blake might be exactly what we need. Because every family had a crystal at some point. So if we can figure out where hers is, we can use that one to do our little spell. And I'm like, but isn't the blood moon gone? So isn't it too late even if you find another crystal?
Well, we're waiting another year.
Now.
The blood moon comes back eventually. This is a long game.
Waiting another year.
I'm patient.
These kids will be dead. Charles is like, yeah, maybe we'll get our powers back. Sure. He doesn't seem that enthusiastic or motivated. And Dawn is like, are you sure that you're up for this? Because if you're not, and he's like, no, I am. Cassie arrives home and is attacked by some random woman in too much eyeliner, in my opinion.
Oh, wow. I didn't even clock because it's also randomly shady. Hello? What did she do to you?
It's what she does to Cassie, because Cassie's like, what do you want? And she's like, your blood, and cuts her with this ornate blade that she has.
I love this girlie's vibe, and I like the tool. I like when...
It does look pretty cool.
I guess if we're discussing the episode, I like when hunters have a leg up, arcanically speaking. It's got these little symbols on it. It's cute. Very fun.
They walked at the Brotherhood with their swords.
Good run, precisely.
But Jake is coming home and hears Cassie scream, so he pops in to rescue her, does a spell called Burning Star, Blood Red Eye. I'm still not sure what it was supposed to do. The assailant's eyes go bloodshot, but I was like, are you giving her conjunctivitis?
Maybe.
Are you affecting her vision? What's happening?
It looked like it was burning, so it's at least distracting enough that she has to get out of there and, I don't know, dunk her face in some milk, possibly, to try and help that. Maybe it's like mace, yeah.
The spell works, I guess, because Cassie copies the chant, and, so now it's in tandem magic, and the woman runs away. Afterwards, Cassie's like, who was that? And Jake's like, I have no idea, but she seemed pretty intent on killing you. Cassie's like, well, I guess you casting a spell proves you're a witch. How did you learn about your powers if you left town before Diana found her Book of Shadows? And Jake is like, I found my own family's Book of Shadows years ago. And then Cassie's like, cool, well, we have a circle, and Nick was a part of it. And Jake's like, yeah, a lot of good that did him. And I was like, wow. Your brother died the other day,
2
Jacob.
days ago. My God.
And then Cassie's like, well, you're a part of the circle too. And Jake's like, thanks, but no thanks. I don't want to be a part of your circle because you're just kids who are in over your heads. And she's like, okay, well, what were you doing out in your yard the previous night with all that fire? And he's like, well, actually, someone burned a crescent onto my lawn. It was probably this woman who just attacked you. And Cassie's like, okay, I thought you'd said it, but I guess that makes sense. Jake patches up her injury. I mean, he dabs it with a dish towel. And I have to say, why are y'all always doing this on American TV? Someone cuts themselves and then you grab the kitchen cloth and then you use it. Don't you guys have Band-Aids?
Notoriously sterile. And dry and medically safe.
But Grandma Jane comes home while this is happening and she's like, I'm glad you're okay and I'm grateful to Jake for his help, but he can leave now, bye. So the next day, Adam and Diana have been summoned over. They've already been informed about the attack. And as they arrive, they see Cassie standing outside talking to Jake. Adam is immediately upset and is like, ugh, why is he here? And they walk up and Diana's like, oh my gosh, Cassie, your injury is so much worse than what you described. Are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine, thanks to Jake here, my knight in shining armor. We did a spell together that scared her off. And Diana's like, oh, okay, so he knows he's a witch. And then Adam says, well, why didn't you say anything about it? And I was like, Adam, last night, weren't you saying you weren't going to tell him that you guys were witches? I think he has the right to not tell you if he doesn't want to. Jake is like, well, I had no reason to tell you because I'm not going to stick around Chance Harbor. And then Adam is pouty and he's like, well, you still should have been open about it. And Jake sarcastically asks, did I hurt your feelings by not telling you?
God.
He's such an annoyance. Cassie tries to assuage Adam's hostility by saying, Jake saved my life. And Adam's like, yeah, it's a little convenient that he showed up as you were getting attacked. Just in time to save you. That's a little strange.
A little interesting.
Diana again clocks Adam's behavior. And Cassie's like, the woman attacked her with this knife that had a crescent moon symbol on it. And Diana's like, she must be the same person who was doing all the arson earlier. And Cassie's like, yeah, it's apparently a way to mark witches and intimidate them. And Jake's the one was marked too. So I guess we're all in this together. And Jake thinks she might be a witch from another circle. And Adam's like, so she probably followed you into town, Jake, since you just bring destruction and grief everywhere you go.
Also reasonable.
Once again, Diana's like, okay, clocked. And Jake says, hey, I've never seen that woman before in my life. So Adam's like, okay, well, I'm glad you're okay, Cassie. I guess we should leave now, Diana. And I was like, but didn't you come over there to discuss this? This could have been a phone call, man. He goes back to his call without another word, and Diana's like, sorry, I'll speak to him. And Cassie's like, oh, sorry, Jake, for Adam's attitude.
Oh, crazy.
And Jake's like, it's cool. I gotta go deal with my own plot. Excuse me.
She will do that again later in this episode where she's like, oh, sorry. Oh, that was rough in there. You shouldn't have had to. And it's like, knowing the history here, it's crazy, but all right.
Diana, on the other hand, she's not one to sit silently for very long. I respect that about her. Other TV shows would let the plot go on for several episodes. She's like, no, I'm going to speak my mind. So in the car, she's like, what's your problem? And Adam's like, what? You know how much I dislike Jake. And Diana's like, no, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. It's different. You're acting like a jealous boyfriend and not mine. And I was like, whoop. There it is. A little while later, Melissa goes over to the Armstrong household. She has a key.
Maybe Nick gave her a key when they were very much in a relationship.
I guess. She goes up to Nick's room. She takes one of his tops and she finds, is it his phone or his MP3 that's still plugged in?
I don't know. Something that plays
that?
Music.
2011.
Hey.
She puts on a sad song and lies in his bed and breaks down crying. It was genuinely very sad. Made me tear up a bit. I was like,
she's grieving. Group love is swelling in the background. It's like this really cathartic moment where she can finally let go. Would be nice if it was in her own home, maybe, in a space where, you could get a sense of her personality and personhood, but I guess.
She doesn't have a home. She sleeps outside, standing upright on the street outside Nick's home, and goes inside when she's needed.
She's in the space outside the loaded level of the video game. She sleeps in the space between script pages when she pops up.
But Cassie, Adam, Diana, and Faye meet up at the clubhouse. Cassie's like, we gotta convince Jake to stay in town. Adam's like, let's not. He has a life elsewhere, so let's just let him go.
It truly is like, is it worth it this much? We have 5, and we're not losing our power. Theoretically, he is if he leaves, so who cares? We still are fairly powerful. We've learned we're not unbroken, so we should be fine.
And Diana says, hey, Cassie might be dead if not for Jake. You need to get over this thing you have with him. Adam's like, it's not a thing. Jake took advantage of my father and made a fool out of him. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. That is fair. I don't know why everyone keeps acting like this is just some school rivalry.
Right, everyone keeps acting like he's some petulant child. It's a very real adult thing that he's upset about.
Faye, once again, main character of her own show, is like, yeah, that's what Jake does. He makes fools out of people.
Faye.
Sorry, what were we talking about?
Step
I was
out
thinking
of the
about
frame,
me.
please. I can't deal with you today.
And Diana's like, really, Faye? You? You're suddenly not a fan of Jake being back in town? And Faye's like, well, why am I not allowed to change my mind? This morning you didn't want him here, and now you've switched, so I've switched too.
You know what? Fair.
And then Cassie's like, stop arguing, guys. I'm stepping into my leadership shoes. Someone is after all of us, and we need Jake here because we need all of our power. And Adam rightfully points out, I agree with this. Adam is like, if we can't trust Jake, we are stronger without him.
Right.
And I think that's fair.
I think that's true.
He adds, Nick might not have been perfect, but we knew he had our backs.
Right.
And I was like, yes, exactly. Put some respect on that man's name.
Exactly. His body's barely been in the ground, and already this is the discussion we're having. God damn.
So Adam storms off, and Diana's like, well, Cassie, I'm going to ignore that. It seems like you had a connection with Jake. So, do you think that we can trust him? And I'm like, we're going to trust Cassie, who doesn't know this man, over Adam, who has
known
a personal history with him.
Significantly.
And Faye, who also has a personal history and has also agreed with Adam that the answer should be no.
Yeah. No, the peddling of this, like, oh my God, this deep connection of Cassie and Jake, I don't care about it. because it makes very little sense. And I don't know.
Cassie's like, hey, if we let him leave, we'll never know. So I guess it's been decided. Faye, meanwhile, is like, what was that I heard about a connection between you and Jake? What? Excuse me? And Cassie's like, she immediately senses where it's going, and she's just like, no. And that's all she manages to get out before Faye says, let me just tell you that Jake will sleep with you, and then he'll dump you and leave you in a million twisted little pieces. But maybe that's what you're into. And then she leaves.
For Faye, I guess, to adjust for Faye in terms of like the intent of that statement, this was her actually giving a fair warning on like, hey girl, I'm looking out for you. Where does she go in the next 2 episodes as pertains to Cassie and Jake? Because my God.
She said, I'm a girl's girl. I support other women, but only when I have ulterior motives and jealousy backing me up.
Jesus.
Cassie speaks to her grandmother. Her grandmother's like, hey, your attacker will probably be back. It's time for me to tell you about our magical family crystal. I got it from my mother. I would have given it to your mother if she were here, and she would have passed it on to you. She's like, the crystal is like a lens that magnifies your power. Circle magic is complicated, involving other personalities and attitudes, but the crystal offers a simpler alternative. It's a reflection of the individual user. I'm not sure if that means that crystals are the in-universe workaround to regular witches in this show not being able to do individual magic once they're in a circle. Maybe eventually everyone would have gotten a crystal. It would have been like, I arm myself for battle with my crystal when my other teammates aren't around.
Yeah, which
maybe.
It certainly would help the mechanic as a... I mean, I know that Jane has said, like, it's not fun in games. Like, witchcraft is this, like, dangerous business, and like it invites more trouble than it is like helpful. Like it's not a superhero power, but like that's within the world, within the meta narrative of the story, the idea of like, okay, it is circle magic, but also you have a chance by yourself if you have this tool. Makes sense to me. I know in the books they each had a working crystal, is what it was described, and they were all different types of crystals. There were specific crystals that were keyed to either that witch or that bloodline, which is the crystal they would use to cast spells. So I find that interesting. I also, because the one in the show it seems to be the same crystal across the board, I like the idea that they Voltron into a big crystal that floats between them as a circle and does a big spell. I like the visual of that.
I love it. The Megazord crystal.
Exactly.
They should all be color-coded, frankly. But Cassie's all like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to be the leader. And it's like, well, you will be, because the plot's got a plot. But Jane tells her, I know who you are and what you're capable of. But be warned, no one else can know about the crystal. Not even the other members of your circle. It's the most coveted magic there is, but it can bring out the very worst in people. And I was like, this might explain how a certain someone starts acting in future episodes, but we'll get there eventually. That night, trifling ass Jake goes to a motel and meets with the woman who attacked Cassie. Her name is Simone. They address each other by name. They're clearly familiar.
Oh no, Jake isn't trustworthy and is working with the bad guys? I'm shocked. Everybody hear that? I'm shocked and appalled.
She's relatively at ease in Jake's presence, but he's like very angry with her, and he's like, how dare you follow me to Chance Harbor? What are you doing marking my house? And she's like, well, the answer to both those questions are that you're a witch and I don't trust witches. So, now what? And then Jake is like, well, you know, you hate my kind, and I hate yours too, which later on will turn out to not be true
at all. He actually really loves them.
The second part of that statement.
And he hates his own kind. It's really a backward statement he's presented here.
Gosh. But yeah, now we know she's not a witch from another circle. And Jake is like, I want the blood you took from Cassie. And she's like, well, no. And then he's violent and forceful, and he rummages through her things and gets the vial of blood. And then she's like, well, you've made a huge mistake. And he's like, stay out of my way. I'm on my own evil mission. I don't have time for sidekicks. And he leaves. At Nick's wake, Faye does some magical drugs. It's a recipe that Nick himself cooked up. I guess we saw him doing something similar at the party where he and Faye ended up blasting Sally off a ledge. Remember her? Where's Sally?
Where'd Sally go? Spoiler, she ain't coming back.
Cassie comes over to her and Faye's like, hey, Cassie, girl, have some of Nick's special brew. And Cassie's like, that doesn't feel like an appropriate way to behave at Nick's wake. And Faye's like, no, you didn't even know him. This is the best way to remember Nick, trust me. She then gets catty again and sneers that, oh, Cassie seemed to be more Nick's brother's type anyway, so maybe you should go busy yourself with that. And I'm like, Faye, I need you to be more secure than this. This is not a good look on you.
High at the wake, being like, actually, I knew him best, even though I quite clearly didn't like him and was just telling somebody to get over his death. God. I know she's projecting. It's supposed to be like she's dealing with grief badly, blah, blah, blah. Whatever.
Yeah. Speaking of dealing with grief, Melissa walks by and Faye's like, hey, girl, hey, we were just toasting Nick. Do you want to drop? Melissa has absolutely zero interest in entertaining Faye's nonsense and clearly thinks this is the least tactful thing Faye has done all episode. She just rolls her eyes and says, God, Faye, and walks away.
At this point, why bother?
Ethan Conant is getting drunk as usual. Adam watches from a distance, and Diana's like, hey, do you want me to go help you out with your dad? And Adam's like, no, I can handle it. So he goes over and he's like, Dad, go easy on the liquor. And then Ethan, exactly like Charles warned him, has a loose tongue because he's drunk. And he's like, yeah, this town can't seem to stop burying teenagers. Such a shame. You know, back in my day, we had a wake at the school gym. But my beloved Amelia Blake didn't show up. She was too upset over Blackwell. Adam's like, Blackwell?
Mention!
Adam is like,
in it now.
Ethan remembers himself. He's like, don't pay any attention to me and my drunk ramblings.
I'm just some drunk.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Shut up. You said Blackwell, not me. Bye.
And Adam's like, okay, just don't overdrink. We are the hosts, remember? Jake arrives, and Adam decides he's done being subtle. And he's like, hey, Jake, what are you really up to? Because no one could have changed so quickly. You were a dick and now suddenly you're nice. Which is kind of funny because I'm like, it's been 2 years. It's plenty of time to change from a delinquent. But you are right. He hasn't changed, Jake. Jake is worse. So Cassie's like, Adam, stop it. And Jake is
Adam,
like,
stop.
No, Cassie, it's okay. Adam's probably just drunk. You know, it runs in the family. And I was like, F you, bruh.
I swear to God, this man pisses me off.
Wow. So Adam has had enough. He takes a swing at Jake and misses entirely.
Unfortunately.
Shame. Jake punches him in the face and the two of them begin a scuffle in front of everyone. Thankfully, Cassie and Diana very quickly break it up. Diana's like, what's wrong with you?
What?
And Adam's like, no, he was just insulting my father. And Diana's like, no, that's not what started this. And then she walks away. And I was like, well, actually, it is what started this. I know there's something else going on, but if we're going to find a starting point, yes, Diana, that is what started this.
I just don't get it. That one had nothing to do with Cassie. God.
I'm like, why are we acting as though Adam and Jake were best friends until Adam saw Jake making flirty eyes at Cassie? Like, that's
and
not what
suddenly
happened.
became an absolute asshole to Jake. The sweetheart who can do no wrong. I don't get it. I feel like I'm in an upside down world. I don't know what's going on.
I guess the whole Mead family is losing their heads because Charles shows up as Cassie is leading Jake out. And he's like, my condolences on your brother's passing. He didn't deserve what happened to him. But if you need anything, you come to me. Okay, Nick?
Charles.
And Jake is like, it's Jake.
And
Charles is like, whoops, sorry, projection.
Oh my God.
And then he goes over to the collage of photographs of Nick. And even though he's seemingly fully sober, he starts rambling to some random old man. And he's like, yeah, the doom and gloom of how we're all fated for a disastrous repeat of history, no matter what we try to do. And Dawn sees him and is like, oh my word, this man is going to blow our cover if he doesn't get a grip. She's like, why are you rambling to extras? The camera doesn't even focus on this man's face. Charles, what are you doing?
Charles, you're going off script. What are you doing? Your line was, I have to go.
And she's like, hey, Charles, come over and sit at our table with me. So Cassie and Jake speak outside, and Cassie's like, wow, everyone sure does hate you. And Jake is like, I'm a cool lone wolf, so I don't care if I'm persona non grata.
Oh.
And Cassie's like, and yet you literally ran away from this town. Which I'm like, finally some sense.
I don't know, man. Don't ask me about anything that's going on this episode. I don't bloody know.
Then she steers the conversation to her mother, and she's like, yeah, she also ran away from Chance Harbor. My whole life, we were always on the move, like she was trying to outrun this place. I don't think leaving actually gave her any peace. What about you, Jake? Did it work for you? And Jake's like, oh, peace is not what I'm looking for. And Cassie says, well, I didn't know you back then, but you must have found something that helped you, because I can tell that underneath this surface level bad attitude, you don't seem like a guy that everyone should hate.
Based
and I was like,
on
you
what?
haven't known this man for more than 24 hours, Cassandra.
In collective
What?
number, barely an hour. They have like 2-minute conversations every time we see them. What is she basing this on?
I mean, I guess she's right. He did find something. She just might come to regret what that was.
God.
Speaking of which, Simone, the huntress, is lurking nearby in the shadows. Diana finds Ethan Connors sleeping off somewhere. I assume he's like in a back room in the boathouse. And she's like, hey, I brought you some coffee to help you sober up. I put milk in it just like you like, because I'm familiar with you. You're my boyfriend's dad.
Right.
And Ethan's like, it's a shame about Nick passing away. Maybe he would have ended up better if he had someone like you in his life to pick him up when he was down. And Diana's like, actually, he did have someone like that. He had Melissa.
You know her. She's in our friend group.
And Ethan's like, do you love Adam? And Diana's like, yes. And Ethan's like, yeah, Adam's lucky to have you. And Diana's like, we're lucky to have each other. Anyway, I'm gonna go now. And Ethan's like, well, before you leave, I have to tell you, I wish you were the one, Diana. You deserve to be happy. And Diana's like, what? And Ethan is like, as I've been saying since episode 1, it's Adam's destiny to be with Cassie. And he starts on his "our families are written in the stars" diatribe again, comparing Adam and Cassie to himself and Amelia. And Diana looks upset and she's like, okay, I'm gonna go. And Ethan's like, listen, the sooner you let Adam go, the sooner you can be free. Be warned, bad things happen when one messes with fate.
Oh my God. Imagine the father of your long-term boyfriend starts telling you about how much you're not right for his son, even though he thinks you're great. But it's this new girl who came to town who's meant to be his girlfriend. So break up with her.
Gosh.
Ethan, please.
And I'm sure on top of everything else going on in her head, maybe on some level she was like, well, you blame the way you are on not being with Amelia. If I keep Adam from Cassie, is he also going to end up an alcoholic who's barely hanging on?
God.
Is that something you're going to put on me? So outside, Melissa finds Faye, who is rather high and balancing precariously on the edge of the dock. And Melissa's like, what are you doing?
It's just truly.
And Faye's like, hey, do you think between the two of us we have enough magic to fly? And I'm like, I don't see why not. So. How hard could it be to make a human body defy gravity when you summoned up a typhoon?
Impossible, given they've not done it. It'd be the first thing I did.
I guess they used the bill of telekinesis on that guy in the high school hallway, but that wasn't that impressive.
Yeah, and it was all 6 of them. So,
Melissa tells Faye, oh my gosh, will you just stop it? And then Faye's like, is Jake in there? Because I'm so over him.
Clearly, you can tell by how many times you bring up
I was like,
that you're that over him. And how you get dressed up to go tell him that you're over him.
Melissa asks Faye if all this acting out is just because of Jake. She's like, really? That's what this is about? You've been through this before, Faye. The first time Jake broke your heart. And according to Melissa, Faye almost wound up in a psych ward the last time. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, he really messed you around.
Yeah.
That's horrible, especially because he's this older boy.
He's older.
And she was probably like 15 when all this was going on.
Yeah. 2 years ago. It's crazy.
Alexa, play 15 by Taylor Swift. Faye is like, well, I was a kid then. Now I'm a wicked witch.
Now I am
And Melissa
an
gets
adult.
fed up and tries to leave.
At 16.
And Faye's like, hey, where are you going? I'm the main character. The plot revolves around me. And then Melissa's like, you just don't get it. Tonight isn't about you.
Right.
For once. Or Jake. Do you understand? It's a wake for Nick. And I loved him. And then Faye's like, okay, I'm serious and somber. I know. And Nick loved you too. And Melissa softens a little, but she's like, I can tell that you're actually thinking about yourself and what you wish you had with Jake when you say that.
God.
But I appreciate it anyway. And they hug. So it's like, okay, at least, I guess.
I would say Melissa's a better woman than me, but I think she's a weaker woman than me. I think Faye's a terrible friend to have. And giving her an inch is a mistake.
Cassie goes inside and finds Adam nursing his shiner, and she's like, you deserve that. And I'm like, does
he?
What?
This feels crazy to me.
I'm like, Cassie, he was making fun of Adam's alcoholism. You can't imagine the trauma that might be tied to something like that. Growing up with this drunk for a father when your mom is already dead. Like, you don't have another parent or another sibling. There's no one else in the house to share this burden with you. And then someone comes and rubs it in your face when you've tried to be courteous to him after he robbed you blind. You've arranged a wake for his dead brother. And then he's like, yeah, you're getting touchy because you're drunk like you're sloshed.
and Adam's the problem? Insane. This episode is high on fumes in this particular respect, and I will not be gaslit about it.
And then she adds, what you're doing to Diana isn't right. She loves you. Adam's like, well, I love Diana too, but I don't trust Jake, and I certainly don't trust Jake with you. And I was like, oh, no, Adam, no, you were in the right.
Here's the thing.
You're losing your right to righteous anger.
Obviously, it's fraught because of the situation we've got going on now with Adam, Cassie, and Diana. However, if you do not trust Jake, period, you would not trust Jake with Cassie, someone you care about. That is true whether or not Adam has complicated feelings about Cassie. So I still think that holds fair.
So real.
It would hold fair if Jake was actually reciprocating with Faye as well. If you don't trust Jake, period, then you don't trust him with Faye because that means Faye's in danger.
Lord knows you can tell that man has no interest in Faye.
Exactly. But for whatever reason, he's hanging around Cassie.
But yeah, he's like, I don't trust him with you. And Cassie's like, oh no, we not this. And then he's like, hey, I can't help how I feel. Everything's screwed up. And Cassie's like, hey, we're all hurting right now. Adam's like, well, maybe it's easier for you because you have a new girl in town and you don't know anybody.
Oh, that's not fair.
Which she said, she's like, that's not fair. I may not have been here my whole life, but you guys are the closest thing I've had to real friends, especially Diana.
That was really lovely.
And I was like, yeah, she really does care about Diana, which makes this whole thing like even worse because she's like, I want to be besties with her, but you're making it awkward by like actively staring at me all the time.
She does her own fair share of staring, I'll be honest.
She's been busy these last few episodes.
She has. She's really been occupied. And so it's not for lack of trying. So I don't think it doesn't help her case that she's been busy and that's the only reason she hasn't been staring.
So Adam's like, listen, I hope I'm wrong about Jake, but I don't think I am. Diana reappears at a distance and sees the two of them talking and sitting together. For once, they're not like cuddled up together or like touching hands, but I guess, you know, it's enough for her to be like, wow, there it is, the thing Ethan Conant warned me about.
Yeah.
And she walks away. Cassie notices Jake walking outside, accompanied by Simone, and she's like, odd. I'll be right back, Adam. And I was like, why didn't you take Adam with you? I don't understand. Remember, you can't do magic on your own, Cassie.
That's 0 sense. There's no logical reason for her to conceal this person who's clearly after their circle. I really don't understand this choice.
Wild. Simone is like, hey, I've also been watching the show, Jake. I saw you with Cassie earlier. You had that little tender moment. It looked like you were closer to kissing her than killing her. And Jake is like, how dare you accuse me of not having what it takes to complete this mission? Just stay out of my way. And then Simone's like, well, no, actually, I'm not done. And Jake is like, well, you are. And then she attacks him with a knife. And I was like, she was going to kill him? Okay, fine, I guess. Cassie, who is watching, pulls out her family crystal. She uses its power to telekinetically disarm Simone, and then Jake and Simone both go for the knife. They tussle for a bit, but he's ultimately able to stab her with it, and she dies instantly, I guess.
As you do.
Cassie is sitting on the porch outside her house when Jake arrives home. He comes over and they talk, and he's like, Simone was a witch. And Cassie's like, really? Okay, well, it seems like you guys knew each other. And Jake is like, no, I think she was just here to scavenge power. Probably heard that a witch had recently died, and that's what scavengers do. They come and scavenge power from dead witches. And I was like, interesting lore drop. Okay. Jake is like, hey, Simone's knife flew out of her hand when you showed up. Did you do that? I thought bound witches couldn't do individual magic. Cassie's like, well, you're not the only one who can lie because I'm not telling you about my crystal. And I'm going to be like, yeah, no, that was crazy. I thought it was you.
Real.
So at least she has some things that she's a bit cautious about when it comes to this man. Jake is like, well, maybe it was the both of us somehow. And Cassie says, you can't leave Chance Harbor. We need you here to fill Nick's space in the group. And Jake is like, no, I have to leave. And she's like, no, we're all bound together. I know it's not something you wanted. Believe me, I didn't want it either, but it's not something we can run from. And Jake says, Cassie, if you really knew me, you wouldn't want me to stay. And I was like, when that man shows you who he is, believe him, girl. Believe him the first time. He's telling you. But she's just like, listen, we don't have a choice. There's threats coming out of the woodwork. The bad is coming. She says, it's already here. It killed Nick and your parents and almost you tonight, which I find ironic since that badness that almost killed him tonight was entirely his own fault. Adam was right. Simone did follow Jake to town.
Yep. Absolutely correct and maligned for it. Very bizarre episode for Adam.
But yeah, she claims we're not strong enough without you, so we gotta stick together. And that's that. I guess he's staying. Diana comes in as Adam is packing up the boathouse, and he's like, where'd you disappear to? And she's like, I went for a walk. And he's like, okay, well, I'm sorry for the way I acted. And Diana says, listen, your dad told me that you and Cassie are destined to be together. Adam was like, what? No, that's just a crazy story that my dad chooses to believe in to make himself feel better about not being with Amelia Blake. And Diana's like, well, I want that kind of love. The kind of love that makes you believe in destiny. And Adam's like, yes, which is what we have. And Diana's like, but we don't though. Because if we did, I wouldn't feel the way that I do right now. And Adam's like, Diana, I love you. You know that. And Diana's like, there's a way that you look at Cassie that I could never understand. And I think I get it now. It's wonder. Wondering if every time you find yourselves together, it's a choice or destiny. And I was like, no, baby girl, don't do this. It's episode 6. What?
Rip.
So quickly?
Nick died. Diana dies. What do you hold dear in this life that can't be ripped from you?
She tells Adam, you need to figure out, is it destiny? Is it a choice? And Adam's like, no, Diana, you're wrong. And she's like, no, I've been standing on the sidelines watching it happen since Cassie got to Chance Harbor, and I can't do it anymore. And I was like, that is true. She has been watching it happen since episode 1, and she leaves. Surprisingly, Diana goes straight to Cassie's house. She shows up tearful on Cassie's doorstep, and Cassie's like, what's wrong? And she's like, I just broke up with Adam. And Cassie's like, oh, what happened? And she's like, you. Which is crazy.
And the lesser show would have followed up with a big old slap.
No, but Cassie didn't do anything. Cassie has not been trying to encourage this. She's been saying, please keep your eyes on your girlfriend, please.
What happened? You.
But I love how direct, like, she doesn't waste time. She sits in her feelings for a bit and then it's like, I'm going to be honest about what's going on. And then Cassie's like, listen, I never meant for any of this to happen. And Diana's like, honestly, I don't even know why I came to your house. I guess it's because Adam is my best friend, so I have no one else to go to and no one else who really knows me.
And
she starts sobbing and Cassie hugs her. And she accepts the hug and hugs her back. And it's really sweet. And I'm like, see? Leave that man behind.
Who needs that man?
At the end of the episode, Jake goes to yet another dock set piece in this show. He meets a bunch of scary-looking men, led by none other than Chris Argent from Teen Wolf.
My king! A hunter in every universe.
I was like, now I know that ain't who I think it is.
Did you not? Did you forget he was in this?
I fully forgot. And you know what's crazy? I guess all the Argent actors get typecast as hunters of supernatural beings because the actor who plays Gerard Mountain Ash Argent was cast as Harvey's witch hunter grandpa in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Right. Yes. Witch hunters both, wolf hunters both. Good for them. Where's the mom in all of this? Where's her other hunter role?
They said, we're taking it back to the Middle Ages where werewolf, vampire, witch, you're all different flavors of the same thing.
Right, you're all the same thing to me. You all look the same and you all bleed the same. Am I right? Boom.
Gosh. But anyway, in this show, his name is Isaac. No relation to Teen Wolf's Isaac, I guess.
His beloved.
And he's like, Jake, why'd you kill Simone? And Jake is like, you mean aside from the fact that you tried to gut me with a blade?
Fair.
And Isaac says, hey, don't get smart with me or I'll gut you myself.
Oh.
I'm unimpressed that you killed a fellow witch hunter. And it's like, oh. So with that statement, now we know that Jake is definitely a witch hunter, despite being a witch himself. The Candace Owens of witches, if you will.
At least Candace has some pizzazz to her. Not to give her anything. You certainly never have to hand it to Candace Owens. But there's a little je ne sais quoi about her that I feel Jake does not have. Like, if you're gonna be a race trader, at least have a little interestness to it.
Jake is like, I had to kill Simone to maintain my cover because Cassie saw me talking to her. So I lied and said Simone was an evil witch. You always told me to follow protocol and that's what I was doing. And Isaac is like, I don't know, maybe Simone was right and we made a mistake having you be our token witch, especially since your own bloodline is connected to our quarry. Jake is like, no, I've never let you down. And I won't start now. And Isaac is like, oh, are you sure? Because Cassie Blake is apparently a compelling girl. And me, like everybody else in this show, can see the sparks flying between you. We can see the undeniable chemistry that apparently exists in this episode alone.
Even I, a character who's just been introduced, can see it. Don't piss me off.
Jake is like, I've come here to avenge the death of my family, to rid Chance Harbor of witches, and I will not fail. Very on the nose, but now we know. And that's that.
Jake Armstrong, I guess, what can I say that's positive? He shakes up the story. That's something, I guess. There's always a source of conflict now because we have someone in the circle who is actively working against the circle. So we always have a level of dramatic irony when problems manifest.
He's the kind of handsome bad boy that you expect to see on the CW, where they're a dime a dozen.
Yeah, I guess.
And it's like, okay, I guess you're fun to look at. But it's... You know what it is? I don't mind the character's storyline.
Yeah.
It's the Theo Rakin effect, where it takes everyone way too long.
That's what it is.
Particularly the main character, way too long to realize that you are shady.
You've nailed it. It's the Theo Rakin issue. It's like, here's a character who's so clearly shady and is getting away with it in like Olympic acrobatic level of feats to like dodge accountability. Like, it becomes farcical that he's getting away with the obviously evil shit that he's doing. And that pisses me off. I hate how smarmy he is too.
And then pre-existing characters who have everyone's trust, who don't trust this person. It's like, well, you're just angry about something unrelated.
Right.
And I don't think your suspicion is valid. And it's like, okay, I guess me, Adam Conant,
your friend of 12 years or whatever, I'm less reliable than the guy who came back who we know sucks.
My father, who trusted this boy when nobody else did. I've already been the person who was like, shame, give him a chance even though he seems shady. Then was robbed blind.
Right.
Something he didn't apologize for. Something he came back and rubbed in my face the first chance he could. I guess I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm the fool.
I guess I'm ungenerous for not giving him a shot. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I don't like that. But alas, we must walk the path.
I guess that's all I can say about this episode. It's well, apart from, I guess that's the main thing. It's the love triangle stuff. It's, what do you call it when two love triangles cross over like a Venn diagram?
A love tetrahedron?
That's what's happening.
'Cause
it's
who
Melissa
is it?
getting a bit of screen time.
Adam, Diana, Cassie, and then Adam, Cassie, and Jake. But then Cassie, Jake,
Yeah.
and Faye, at least in her mind.
Oh my gosh, it's three love triangles in Faye's mind.
Disappointing.
And then Charles having a conscience for 2 minutes. Will it last? It won't. But it's nice to see it for a little while.
It's nice to see him grapple with something.
He's like, I murdered a child. Am I the bad guy? Yes, Charles.
Are we
you
the
are.
baddies?
But that's all I have to say for episode 6. If you have any questions or thoughts, you can mail us at animalattackpod.com, or you can tweet us at @animattackpod. That's at ANIM attackpod on Twitter. You'll find our link tree in the bio, which has all of our online stuff. Until next time, I guess, when we take a dive further into this irritating Theo Rakin effect, la da 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 da. I've been Fadzai.
I guess I've been Sandile, but no more. I exist beyond.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Cheers.